Hi guys, Jean here. Tonight the topic is about being seen. Right now I'm at my friend's house in Banff, so I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video tonight, but my intention is to make a video every day. And yeah, so I have no choice. I have to make a video tonight. So I might be a little bit quiet. um, yeah, so the topic is about being seen. Before I start, I want to say like and subscribe to my channel because you liking and subscribing to my channel, that is going to help me a lot. If you don't know this, if you're new here, this channel is what I consider to be my retirement plan. Maybe soon I'll have to talk about what that means and why I create this YouTube channel as my retirement plan. I'll talk about that another time. I'm going to make a note on that, right? So I've decided this year that I want to be seen. And so I bought this beautiful red, bright red jacket, winter jacket that comes all the way up to my ankle. It's nice, it's warm, it's fluffy. And I'm really sorry, I should have brought it into the room with me so that I can show you guys. But anyways, maybe I'll show you guys this jacket another time. Now the jacket is so bright that you cannot miss me on the street. So I'm definitely being seen. And I also have this beautiful mustard New York, what do they call it in New York? A tam. You know, over here in Canada, we call it a toque. So this, I have my mustard toque and my red jacket, and and I have a blue winter dressy boots. So when I come out, you cannot help but see me. Now, why am I, make this really big and clear decision to be seen? I guess that also has to do with me showing up here on YouTube every day. Now, is it easy to do? Not really. Um, most days I leave and I'm like, oh my God, that was embarrassing. I just did a whole video on XYZ and I stammer and I laugh inappropriately. And I also have to constantly re-say the things that I said. And one of the reasons that I also always end up sometimes having to repeat myself is that I've always been told, I've always been told, oh, yeah, that's not how you say this. You have to say this way. Or that's not really correct. You have to say it that way. And so because of my accent too, I spend a lot of time being corrected and have to correct myself. And in doing these videos, and being seen, one of the decision I made is that I just have to do it how I do it. So there are times when I would have to repeat myself and I don't mind. And there are times when I actually would not say the word correctly. Honestly, there are times when I just somehow my tongue do not roll around with that particular word. And so if you've been watching me, you would notice that I do that from time to time. And I have to repeat, or I would say, you know what I'm saying. And normally I know you know what I'm saying. Now, this channel is for people who want to begin again. And it doesn't really matter what age you are, whether you are 20 and you have done 100 things that didn't work out and you want to begin again, but you're convinced that you're a failure. I'm telling you right now, I'm giving you permission to begin again. And if you're 40 or 50 or 60 or 70, begin again. My role model, well, one of my role model is Louise Hayes. And if you're my age, and you're in the spiritual world, you probably know a lot about Louise Hayes, especially if you had to heal something, because she wrote a book on heal yourself. And Louise Hayes was one of those women. She has passed on now, but she has been one of those spiritual guru that walked. Her earlier walk was with in the 80s, or was it, yeah, the 80s or late 90s. I think it's 80s, late 90s, in the AIDS epidemic. Yes, when the AIDS epidemic was running rampage, she wrote a book on healing yourself, and she used to do a lot of work together with the AIDS victims. Um, she have begin again many, many times in her life. When she was 70, she picked up art, doing art at 70. She took herself to a children classroom to learn how to do art. You know, in her late 50s, she did a had a is it a book production company? You know, so I just love Louise Hayes, and I love women that begin again a lot. So about being seen. Now, you may know, if you have been looking at me, that I used to live in Canada National Park, which is Banff, Alberta. Right now, today, this is where I'm at. I'm in the national park today. I'm at my friend's house. Actually, this house, I've lived in this house for almost a year with this particular friend, and I'm just visiting because now I'm living neighborly in Kenmore, which is very close. You know, it's a 20 minutes drive. And this is the two major little town that is inside of this mountain here in Alberta. So one of the story I want to tell tonight about being seen is the story of me realizing that I was actually black. I'm a let you know, and I know what you're saying. Jean, how come you didn't know that you were black? Well, it's not that I didn't know that I was black. One of the things that you have to keep in mind is that I was born and raised on an island, and everybody on that island was the same color as me. So I wasn't running around the world going, oh, look, I'm black and this person is white. I didn't have that. I didn't know what racism was. I didn't know what it was to be segregated. I just didn't have that. I grew up poor. I didn't know I was poor. I was running around a beautiful island, and I had a lot of adventures on that island. So when I arrived here in Banff, I just was so excited that I lived in a tourist town because Banff is Canada leading national park. It is a tourist town. And, you know, when I came in here in 98, which was about 27 years ago, it was quite different, but it was still a very much a tourist town. And so when I arrive here, I just live like a tourist, right? Because people expect, you know, the tourists, they come and they go. So a lot of the time when I meet people, they just assume that I'm a tourist. And I actually made a decision, you know, I'm in a tourist town. And so I just live like a tourist in a sense. So I didn't have to be a color. I just was living as a woman in the world. And so when Black Lives Matter happened, I think in early June of 2021, while the pandemic was going on, and the entire world came awake. And I can tell you that the world became awake about racism and the way that Black people have been treated. And I was one of those people, including I have another friend, and she is from India. Her heritage and her culture is Indian, but she was born and raised, well, mostly in Calgary. But she lived out here as well, and we had have many conversation about that. So when Black Lives Matter happened, I actually went into a breakdown. And I guess if you're looking at, at my channel, you may hear I talk about breakdown maybe a lot. I don't know. I have mentioned it here and there. So I went into a real breakdown. You can see my ring light in my glasses, but I need the light. Don't you just love this room? So I went into this breakdown when Black Lives Matter happened. And while I was in the breakdown, I it was almost I suffer a heartbreak, like a real heartbreak, right? And I didn't know what it was, you know. The world was crying over George Floyd. I was crying. I was crying so much. I was sensitive. It's almost like I couldn't handle my environment. I didn't understand why the white people around me, especially like in my workplace, and didn't wasn't asking me how I was doing, because that's when I came awake to me being black in the world. And you can dispute it if you want, but I know my experience, right? So one night, I was living just down the street here, and I was living on a neighboring street. Um, and I came outside around 11 p.m. that night. And when I came outside, I think I was going to throw some garbage out, or it's a possibility. I'm going to share a secret. It's a possibility I came out for a smoke because, I have a little smoke here and there. No, not that kind of smoke. I was smoking tobacco, and actually real, true tobacco, not even cigarette. It was just tobacco. So I came out, and it was around 11 p.m. I was alone in the road, and I get this sense. I had this like this voice, this inner voice that says, "You're alone in the road in the middle of the night in a white neighborhood, and the police, somebody is going to call the police for you." And that voice shocked me. I was shocked because this is a community at that time I had already lived in for like 24 years already. And here I am having this, um, is it an epiphany, not or a soul awakening? I think I was having this soul awakening, and I got so frightened because in that moment when I got the voice, when I heard, my spirit said, someone is going to call the police for you because you're black and you're in a white neighborhood and it is the middle of the night. And in that moment, I I saw myself for the first time as a black woman in the world. And prior to that, I used to always say, well, I'm not American, so I don't know the American Black history. So that doesn't apply to me because, I'm living in this fancy little town and I am a tourist and, people treat me like that. Well, they ask me every single day where you're from, blah, 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 and what you're doing here. But that's beside the point. The point is, in that moment, in the middle of the night, in the middle of the street, I was having a life crisis. I was having an awakening of who I was. And I, for the first time, saw myself. I saw me. And I felt so vulnerable, and so hyper insecure without myself, I would say outside of myself, that 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 year I left and I went back into the house. And I think it was about a few months later, I took a road trip. I was going on a road trip. Now, by the time that I was having this awakening of seeing myself as a black woman in the world, um, I was working with PAX Canada. I'm still working with PAX Canada now, but I was working with them, and it was throughout the summertime. And I went to work every day feeling so vulnerable, so sad because no one noticed my vulnerability. No one asked me how I was doing. No one asked me how the George Floyd murder, how if that was affecting me here in this part of the world. I do have to say I had some friends that actually at some point we got together, and I was asked to speak on a few panels as well because they did have rally, and being the only black woman in the neighborhood, I was asked to speak on these panels. Now, that crisis came after I spoke on the panel, to be honest with you. I think it was after, because as soon as George Floyd thing happened, it was about a week or two that they had rallies and they asked me to speak because I was, the only Black woman. And I think I had this whole speech about, well, I'm not an American and I don't know what it's like to be an American in the slavery and all of that. But guys, I am a descendant of slave, the ones that got thrown into the Caribbean, the ones that had to do plant cane for sugar and all these things. So basically, yeah, my ancestors, came over to the Caribbean on a boat in the middle of the ocean. So I can tell you, um, I don't know. You may know more history than I do, but I had a clear understanding. So a few months after I decided to leave town and go to the ashram, and again, if you have been listening to my channel, you would know that I spend a lot of time at this place, this spiritual place that feeds me. And I got to the ashram, no, driving there for the first time in my existence here, well, really on earth and here living in this part of the world. And I've done this drive before. It's a nice long drive through the mountain and all of that. You get into BC, which is British Columbia, the next province over from Alberta. And I've been driving and I felt so vulnerable because I keep saying to myself, not in this, not speaking it out loud, but the thoughts that is running through my head. People can see that I'm Black, which is almost hilarious because I am Black and I have been Black in this whole neighborhood and I have driven this road before and I've never, ever, ever had this thought. But here I am driving and hiding, and I don't know even know how I was hiding because I'm like, people can see that I'm Black. And this is weird. I felt outed. I felt like any time I was going to be told to go back to my slavery place or whatever. But that's how I was feeling on that drive. And when I got to the ashram, because I tell you, prior to that, I knew nothing about being Black in Canada. I just thought I was a woman and I'm living, and the way I've been treated, it was kind of normal. It's how people, I don't know, that's, all these gaslighting and you know, I just kind of was like, oh, doesn't apply to me, right? I just thought that's do not apply to me until it did apply to me. And so when I got to the ashram, I was so fortunate. There was this young woman from England, and she was mixed. She was born in Australia. No, they are from Australia, but I think she was born is it, yeah, in England or one of those places. And her mom was like a native. She considered herself Black. She considered herself a Black woman mix. But her mom, I think, was a native Black to Australia. And she married to some, one of those hippie people in England that goes around driving around, those nomads, right? So anyway, she didn't have a good experience in life. But the difference in her and me is that she had always known that she was Black, and she was like a walking historical person when it comes to Black people. She knew all the gaslighting, she knew all the ways we were harmed. And as it so happened, and I've been to this ashram 100 times, and as it so happened, that was her first time there. And she just came because she was in Canada and she was trying to escape the pandemic. And she arrived at this white ashram. And let me tell you, she gave them hell there. But I learned so much from that woman. And I knew that the creator, and you may say the universe, I say the creator, I knew that that person was sent there to look after me and to help me understand who I was, who I am as a Black woman in the world. And believe me, did she I would say, not scold me, but did she really teach me? Really, like she really taught me a lot. So that's how I started to see myself. Now that, the pandemic and Black Lives Matter happened since 2020. And between then and now, I have done a lot of different type of self-development work. Really, some really sweet self-development work. And what I came to last year is that, and this can be an age thing too, because I'm much older, I'm much wiser, but as the world now is really going through what I call a transformation, I don't think the Prime Minister of Canada called it that, but I know that the world is going through a breakdown. And as I'm here experiencing that breakdown energetically, I realize that this is the year 2026, the number one year, the year of the horse. Um, Last year, I was shredding and shedding. If I tell you my 2025 year, you will be shocked. I did so much amazing things in 2025. And in 2026, this is the year I decide that I want to be seen. And I'm going to leave you with this. A few days ago, I went to my group workout session. And at the end of the session, I was in my red jacket and we were standing in the hall, and I was standing with a few white women in the hallway. And they were just telling me how much they love my red jacket. And I said, "Oh, guys, I bought this jacket because I'm ready to be seen." And one of the women said to me, "Oh my God, I think you have just changed my life because I'm always hiding." So here is my lesson for you today. Stop hiding. It is not easy to be yourself. I know this because as much as I thought I was who I am, I didn't know how to be myself. And I went through an era where people were constantly saying, be yourself, be yourself, be yourself. But then they were turning around and tell you what to do and how to do it. Now, the era that I'm in right now, my being seen era, I know that I'm being myself because I can sit here and have this conversation with you, and whether or not it's embarrassing or I'm feeling shame around it, I know that I'm being myself. And so I leave you with this. Find out exactly what being yourself is all about. And I truly believe it has to do with the inner work. It's just not something about the outside. I spoke before about this is just my color and my hair is just different and my culture might be Caribbean, but fundamentally we all bleed. So there's no big difference. Find out, you know, what does being yourself look like, and do that. Be seen this year. Be your full self. Be your full self. So do less and be more of you. You guys have a good night, you hear? And don't forget to subscribe and like my channel, because I tell you, I will be so grateful because you are helping me. And thank you.